that that the solar photovoltaic system is there, and they will be fenced for security purposes. The array itself will be roughly 10 to 12 feet tall. So it will be, with the buffering, you will be able to hide it from most visible locations. All of the privately owned utilities will be underground, and to the extent National Grid's utilities can be underground, they will be underground as well. And then all inverters, transformers, and any other equipment will be within the fence unless it's required otherwise by National Grid. And then, as John reiterated earlier, this will still go through the major land development process, so that is an important step to understand. We will and we intend to work with the planning board to make sure that all of their environmental considerations and any other concerns are addressed as part of our process with the town. So some of the community benefits that the town can expect to see, the first is the financial benefits to the town. In exchange for 1% of the town land, the proposed 50 to 65 megawatt array, for simplicity purposes here, I've assumed the middle number, 57.5 megawatts, it will produce $400,000 a year in tax payments. It's worth noting this is 70% larger than Walmart, and there's actually only one taxpayer in the entire town that has higher tax payments than this, and that is National Grid. In addition to the annual tax payments, there's a one-time upfront payment to the town of $5,000 per megawatt AC. Based on the proposed system size, that translates to roughly $287,000 that the town will be able to utilize in a manner that they see fit. So the other benefit is a local economic benefit. Beyond the benefits that flow to the town, there will be benefits to landowners in the area. There'll be $31 million in lease payments made to landowners over the course of 25 years for this project. In addition to that, we're going to create 250 local jobs for roughly a year. We intend to work with the town of North Smithfield to make those jobs available to residents within the town. We intend to have a local job fair. We've heard and understand that there may be a number of veterans, college students, others that may be looking for this type of work, and we intend to try and work with those groups to the extent that they're interested in one. So the community benefits of this project, it will produce roughly enough power to, that's the equivalent of 13,500 homes. So it's 2.5 times all of the households in North Smithfield from one particular project that we are looking at in this overlay district. There's no hazards, it's safe, there's no emissions, there's really no pollution of any kind that will come from this project. And compared to other development options, and it's important to understand that this is private property, there are other development options. So the status quo is not always the alternative that we're looking against here. The alternative could be affordable housing, it could be regular housing, it could be commercial development. There's a number of alternatives that these landowners could look at for this type of property. But compared to other development options, there's no added traffic, noise, or pollution other than temporary traffic during construction and noise during construction. There's no added strain on the fire, police, or school systems. These are one of the best neighbors you can have. There's very little noise. There's very little impact as a result of this. In terms of environmental benefits, there's a lot of concern in the community at this point about the environmental impact of renewable energy and the fact that trees are being cleared to site these renewable energy systems. It's worth noting that we understand that, we hear that, and our plan is to attempt to develop these in as environmentally friendly of a manner as we can. We intend to plant pollinator-friendly native species within the array. We've been talking to a number of environmental scientists about what we can do to make these projects as friendly as possible. We've discussed having the fencing allow ingress and egress of different types of animals, raise it up a couple inches to allow small critters to go below. We intend to work with the planning board to address how high should the fence be, specifically as it relates to deer. Is there ways we can allow them to continue to graze. And then at the end of the term, all of the footings and underground conduit, so essentially everything that was developable about this project and all of the development that went on will be removed. That's an obligation that we have in our lease with our landowner, and it's an obligation we intend to fulfill. So at the end of the term, it's unlike residential housing or commercial real estate development, there will be essentially a field left over that the landowners at that time can decide how they intend to proceed with this type of property. So here we just put together an alternative of what this type of, one of the properties in particular that we're looking at could fit for housing. You can see this one particular property hosts over 76 residential houses. If this were to go forward, that would cost the town roughly $415,000 a year for schools based on an average Rhode Island ratio of 0.38 students per household. Arguably, that's probably a low number because these new types of cluster developments tend to attract more families with kids. So you can see this is the project in particular, one area that we are looking at, and that's 146 on this edge to the east. Right along here is National Grid transmission and National Grid transmission. So for all intents and purposes, it's surrounded on 3 sides. And there are very few residential abutters. So the reasoning that we think the overlay district works for North Smithfield is, it's limited in its geographic footprint. It gives North Smithfield control over placement. This is not a huge endeavor to open up the entire town. This is a small overlay that we have proposed here, and the sites that we have proposed we feel are particularly suitable to renewable energy development. In addition to that, it's revenue positive with over $40 million in local economic benefit over 25 years from 1% of the land. There'll be no additional strain from school districts' public resources, and it'll provide roughly 250 local jobs. In addition to that, it maintains rural character. Instead of more permanent development alternatives, this continues to preserve the potential that there could be open space in the future. And it's safe for the community. With that, thank you, Town Council members, for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I also just want to make a notation. It's important to note that what we're doing this evening is not giving you specifics on projects, but essentially just presenting to the overall statutory procedure that we're seeking to be invoked by way of the ordinance. All of these proposals in these projects will go through the normal process and the channel that we've described, the major land development project, where they'll be vented out by the planning board and then returned to the town council with regards to development center review. So, I don't want you to feel like you're not getting enough information. What you're getting tonight is the information with regards to the process and the procedure, the amendment to the ordinance. At a later time, we're going to go significantly in depth on all of these proposals once they're before the planning board, and then hopefully again before you for the development center. So with that, we don't have anything further to say or available for any questions that the board would have and that the neighbors would have as well. What is here?
Okay. Before I open up the public hearing, does anybody on the council have any questions for the presenters? On the council, just 1 second. I'm going to open up the public hearing in a minute. Okay, so this will.
I just want to know how many trees. Do you have any idea how many trees you're going to take down? How long?
I don't off the top of my head. I mean, there is a significant amount of clearing that will be proposed, but I don't have an exact number of trees. We're still working through the design. We actually have someone flagging wetlands and things like that at this time.
I would love to know that number.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also to keep in mind that any tree cutting would also be required to obtain the soil and erosion permit from the town, and most importantly, a RIP-East permit from DEM. So any tree cutting would be part of a plan that would be submitted to the planning board for their review. In conjunction with that, it would be submitted for a review by DEM and then ultimately a review again by the town for your soil and erosion permit. So there's an extensive process in place. It's already covered under your ordinance, and we're not asking to obviate that in any way or circumvent that. We're subject to to it and be prepared to address it.
We're gonna get to you guys in 1 second. Mr. Zelinski, you have a question?
Yeah, Mr. President, thank you. Attorney, if you recall, during the planning board meeting, I asked about a balanced site. I'm concerned about, I know there's a lot of ledge, but I'm also concerned about our roadways during this construction period. I would like to hear what your plans are regarding earth materials on that site.
As far as removing the site?
From site, balanced site, if you can keep it on site.
Yeah, our goal is
If I may
to...
finish?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Which also may help you with slopes and drainage and whatnot. So if you could just give me a little insight into that.
Absolutely. So the fundamental goal at the onset, especially with solar arrays, as opposed to a development such as a subdivision, where your goal is to level the land as much as you can because it makes development a lot easier, makes your roadways a lot easier. In fact, your ordinance requires certain pitches for roadways, so to do that, you have to do certain cuts, certain grades, and certain removal. With solar array, we can actually work with the contours and topography of the land. So the cuts that you would normally see, the movement of earth that you would normally see, the flattening of that is much, much less, significantly less. The goal here is going to be keep the contours, keep the topography, roll with it, and you'll see the solar arrays. It has very little impact, the solar arrays. Unlike your development, where your subdivision regulations call actually for us to do much of the flattening as possible to keep an even slope.
Thank you. Ms. Carpenter, you mentioned fencing allowing ingress egress for small animals, which of course the planning board will take a look at. Can you give more detail to that type of fence? Well, how is it going to look? Is it hurricane fence, opaque? Some more detail, please.
Yes, so the majority of our projects utilize a chain link fence. What we were talking about doing was potentially raising it up a couple inches, just enough so that no one can actually get underneath it, because we do need to make sure it keeps people out, but enough that small animals would still be able to go through it.
If I may add to that, Councilman, one of the other things that we do, and we actually had a discussion with the planning board, is to find ways to develop and engineer solar arrays so we can have pathways to allow your larger animals to still habitate and make their ways and maneuver around. So you'd have certain sections that would remain open as corridors and as habitat in their vegetative and natural state to still kind of accommodate the habitat in that area.
In our paperwork, we received with a neighboring community was talking about decommission plants. Can you give us a little bit more? They're talking about 30,000 for a megawatt. Technology can change. Can you give us a little detail on that decommission plan?
Yeah, so that was one of the sections that we had requested a waiver on. I believe our plan was to, as part of the development incentives, was to come back to the town council and the planning board with a proposal around decommissioning at the same time. We're exploring a couple of different options right now, because one of the challenges with the decommissioning is that it typically requires cash or a bond, and the bonds are not typically renewable for 20 or 25-year terms. So we're exploring opportunities to either post a bond on a rolling basis that gets continually renewed, or be allowed to post that a little bit later in the process. So that's a plan we intend to go through in more detail with the town council at a later stage when we bring an actual project to the table.
So, Mr. Mancini, you're asking the town council to grant a zone change. My concern is that this project, if it moves forward rapidly. I'm going to be advocating a sunset clause be put in here so that reasonable amount of time, it just doesn't linger if it comes to this point. So that's further discussion we can have. But I would not want to see something get approved for an overlay zone, and for whatever reason, it sits there.
Yeah, and I think that's certainly within your prerogative. We don't have a disagreement with that. It's important to note that it's not a zone change. What we're asking for is the creation of an overlay district, which is essentially a rider to your existing ordinance. So it's a hybrid. It doesn't go to the elevated stance of a zone change, but it's more of kind of an additional rider to your existing ordinance. So I think a sunset provision would be another adequate rider to your existing ordinance. We wouldn't be opposed to it. certainly our objective is to move forward with it, as long as it's a reasonable sunset.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to, we're going to get to you guys in 1 second. I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved, Mr. President.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Bottomoli? Yes. Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Zalinski?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad?
Yes. All right, regarding the public hearing, we're going to call you up if you put your name on this sheet, okay?
What about the questions for the gentleman?
Yeah, that's what the sheet's for. So you're going to come up. We're not going to do it from the audience stuff. Anybody who wants to speak is going to come up at the podium. We're going to do this. Try to do this in as orderly a fashion as possible. Also, please do not shout out or speak or make comments from the chair. You're not from your seats. You won't be recognized. Now, if you're not on the sheet, it doesn't mean you're not going to be able to talk. It just means that everybody that's on the sheet is going to be able to go before you. Okay? All right, let's begin. I have Mr. Bill Jameson from Project Stand Down. Now, full disclosure, I am friends with Mr. Jameson. We worked on the state police for many years together, and he is now in his other career. I asked him to come here tonight and tell us very briefly about what you guys do.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Town Council. Thank you for having me here tonight and allowing me to speak briefly about Operation Stand Down.
Yeah, you'll understand why in a minute, so why I asked him to come here. Go ahead.
I'm case manager with Operation Stand Down, a nonprofit organization that's located in Johnston that was started over 25 years ago to assist veterans in need. Our funding comes from federal and state grants as well as private donations from businesses and individuals. These grants allow us to provide a wide variety of services for our veterans community. Now, one thing we do is housing assistance. If you're homeless, what we look at is someone on the street, someone in a shelter, someone living in a car, or someone that's in transitional housing that's ready to come out and make a start on themselves. That can be a single veteran or a veteran family. We also help prevent homelessness. Those veterans and veteran families that are falling behind on their rent, we can help them catch up to their rent before the eviction process starts. A major part of that is employment and training. We serve veterans with an employment and training branch if they are unemployed or underemployed. They need some assistance. We can help them with resume building, job searching, job placement, and once a job is offered to them, we can help them with equipment and clothing that they need to start that job. What we found is that works in hand with the loss of housing. Most of the time it is because of underemployment. So those things work together in order to stabilize housing for veterans. We also help with legal services on a case-by-case basis. We can help them out in traffic court as well as district court to get things moving in the proper way. And that will also help them maintain housing. We also offer a use of a food pantry and a clothing shed for veterans and their families that are in need. And that's just a brief rundown. But bottom line is, it was mentioned earlier that if approved, the solar farm would allow veterans to work for them, and that's something that would definitely be worthwhile. And our organization would love to work with you to make that happen. If you have any questions or would like more information on Operation Stand Down, feel free to contact me there, or you can locate us on the internet at osdri.org. I also have some pamphlets I'll go ahead and leave at the table over there. You're more than welcome to take one and give me a call if you have further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mancini, if this project is approved, can we get a commitment from Green Development to work with Mr. Jameson's organization, get veterans to work?
100%.
Thank you.
Mr. Nadeau.
My name is Richard Nadeau.